Hey everybody, hopefully you had a chance to watch the video about our artists that we're going to be inspired by this week, Jen Aranyi. She is an illustrator, an artist, and a graphic designer. She does graphic design for her daytime job, and then she does her own art on the weekends and in the evenings. And most of her artwork is based upon her surroundings. And she lives in the state of Maryland, and so she loves to do artwork based on the beauty in the place where she lives in Maryland. So we are going to draw a landscape today inspired by her style. All right, let's get started. All right, so I just wanted to show you guys some of the examples that I've done already. These are really, really easy to do, and they're super fun. So I've already done two, and I'm gonna show you how to do another one. All right, so I am using watercolor paper. If you have watercolor paper, I recommend that as opposed to regular construction paper. But if you don't, construction paper will work too. I'm using a paper plate. You need something in order to make a circle template. So you can just get a plate or anything that's a circle that is, you wanna try and use up as much of your paper as possible. So this plate works well because it goes almost all the way out to the edges. Okay, there we go. Now, remember, you're doing this in pencil. I am not going to cut this out until I'm done with my painting and my drawing. So I'm just gonna leave it like this for now. Okay, so your first step is you're using a pencil, and you are going to make the mountaintops about halfway down your paper. So you're basically just making like a kind of a curvy zigzag type line going across the circle. So I'm gonna do it about right here. And you don't want your mountains to all be the same height, so you want to vary them a little bit. These are kind of too close for me, too close in height, so I'm going to make this one a little bit bigger, and then maybe another hump right, oops, another hump right here. All right, I like that. Okay. After you've done your line going from one side of your circle to the other, now we have to make our shadows. That's what's going to make the mountains look three-dimensional. So I'm gonna put I'm gonna pretend like the light source is coming from this direction. So the sun is over here, and it's shining on this part of the mountains, on this side, and then this side is in shadow. So to make your shadows, you're gonna start at the very tip of every mountain, and you're just gonna make a curvy line going to the bottom of the mountain. So start at the top, and you're gonna go down, keep it curvy, and then back up. Start at the top, go down and up. Down and up. And you wanna make it, kind of, you don't want it to be a straight line, you want it to be a curvy line. And you want to make sure that you have plenty of space. You don't want to put it too close to the side of the mountain because you want to have enough room to show that there are shadows. Okay, there we go. All right, now, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our Sharpie and trace over those lines. Now don't trace over your circle line with the Sharpie because we're gonna be cutting those out. So you do not need to do that. And actually you don't wanna do that because it'll, oops, you don't wanna be able to see any black lines around the edges. Okay, I'm now going over my shadow lines. Okay, Now I'm going to make my shadows. So I'm basically, this is the way that Aranyi makes her. She uses hatching lines, which are just lines that are running parallel to one another, and they're all going in the same direction on every mountain. Okay, so you're going to do the same. Keep them, try and keep the same amount of space between each line if you can. And you're basically just going parallel with the side of the mountain where the shadow is. See how it's starting to look three-dimensional? All right, now I've got my mountains done. I also am gonna add some lines just to make it look like there's, you know, it's not completely smooth. There's some texture on the snow or on the mountains. All right, there we go. All right, now the next step is we're going to make a line starting at one, actually let's look at this one. Well, at one end of the circle, and it's gonna go to one side and then down and around until it's gonna keep getting narrower and narrower until we get to the bottom of the circle. So I'm gonna do it in pencil first, and I'm doing it below my mountains, just like that. Okay, now I'm gonna go over that with a Sharpie. All right, now I'm going to place my trees on, this is kind of like a road, and, or I guess it could just be where the snow is kind of piled up as well. Whatever you want it to be, but we're going to make trees along that line. Now, we're trying to create the illusion of depth in our paper. We want it to look like the trees, some trees are closer up to us than other trees. And the way that we do that is we make the objects that are down below bigger, because that means we'll make them look closer up. Then as they go further back, they will get smaller and smaller. So I want to show you guys real quickly how you can draw a tree really easily. So you may want to practice this first before you do it on your paper. So all that you really need to do to make a tree, like a pine tree, is make a line, and then you just kind of go back, kind of scribble back and forth along that line. And there you go, you've got a pine tree, and you could make it a little bit more dense by going over it again. I kind of like to leave a little bit of space. I don't make my lines really close together. So there's one tree, maybe a little bit bigger at the bottom. We can go back and, okay, let's make a little one. So you just make it a straight line. And then you want to vary the width. And I kind of made some of the lines more prominent on this side than on this side, because trees are not, you know, perfectly symmetrical. So, you know, you want to make them look more natural. So practice making some trees first. And, you know, they're maybe the branches are kind of going down at the bottom. All right? So go ahead and practice first. Then let's make, you know what, I'm gonna erase the pencil line that's under this first before I make my trees. And I might as well erase all of my pencil lines on my mountains too. I think my pen is dry. Oops. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna start with a tree. I'm gonna kind of make them go along the line. So my first tree is gonna be a pretty large tree. So my line is gonna be bigger, okay? And now I'm gonna make my branches, just going over my line. All right, so there's one tree. Now I'm gonna make another tree. Now it's gonna be further up on my paper, and that means that it's gonna be further away. So I'm gonna make this one a little bit smaller. This line was bigger, now it's a little bit smaller. Okay, there we go. There's tree number 2. All right, I'm gonna make another one right here. It's a little bit higher up. The starting point of my trunk is higher up than this one and in this one, so it's gonna be even smaller than that one. I may have made it about the same, but that's okay. All right, now I've got a lot of them over here, so I need a couple more on this side to balance it out. So I'm even going up higher. This one's gonna be even smaller. Okay, there we go. Now, up here, it's about at the same height, so I'm gonna make these trees about the same. And then maybe one more that's even tinier, really far in the distance. Okay, there we go. So now I've got my trees, and it looks like they are going further away because I started with bigger trees at the bottom, and as I went up my paper, I started making them smaller. So I'm creating the illusion of depth in my landscape. Okay, so now we're done with the pen part. The next step is to do our watercolor sky. So you need to decide, you have 2 choices. You can either do a cool color sky or a warm color sky. Cool color sky, you know, looks more like cold weather. This could be like a sunset. It's your choice. So let's review real quickly. The cool colors are greens, purples, and blues. And red colors are colors that remind us of hot things like fire and the sun, yellows, oranges, and reds. I'm gonna do this one with cool colors. So let me go get my paints and I will be right back. Okay, so I am going to be using these watercolors, which these are the ones that we have for the classroom. Yours may not look like that. But I'm gonna, so on this watercolor palette, basically everything on this side, the brown and the black are more neutral colors, but these are the 4 cool colors. And then on this side, this is really, the white is a neutral color also. These are the warm colors. So I'm gonna use these blues. I wish that there was a purple included in this, but there's not. I'm not gonna use a ton of green because you don't typically see a lot of green in the sky. But you know, you can do it however you want. So I like to wet my paper a little bit first. I'm gonna wet a couple sections. This is called wet and wet. You can wet it first or you don't have to. And then I'm gonna dip my brush in my paint and just brush that color on. Oops, try not to get it on your mountains like I just did. If you do, you can try and blot it off with a paper towel or a tissue. Now I'm gonna switch to another blue. And I'm basically just gonna continue, and I think I'll use a little bit of green just to make it more interesting. I like this blue the best. So just be really, and turn your paper, that always works for me, to make it easier. If you have to paint upside down, that's fine. I love watercolor, it's my favorite medium because it's very unpredictable. You just never know what's going to happen when you are painting with watercolor. It's hard to control, and it just makes it more fun, I think. Just putting a little touch of green here and there. I think maybe that's too much green, so I'm gonna put some more blue right there. All right. All right, so my sky is done. And on this one, can you see there's like white kind of bumpy looking lines in my sky? The way that I did that is, actually I didn't really intend to do it, but my paper, I used a lot of water, and so it was kind of puddling up. So I took a paper towel and just kind of dabbed, and it pulls up some of the paint to create kind of a cool texture. So you can do that if you want. You don't have to. I did it in this one. In that one I did not. It's a little bit smoother. So this one kind of looks like there's even more mountains in the background to me. Okay, so now I'm just gonna wait for this to dry, and when I'm done, I'm gonna cut it out. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and cut it out right now. But you should wait for your paper to dry. I just wanna get this done in one take if possible, or 2 takes, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut it. All right, so there you have it. This is our Jen Aranyi inspired landscapes. Have fun. Make sure you post your work on Google Classroom or Flipgrid or Seesaw, and if you want, you can share it on Flipgrid as well. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.